So hi everyone, thank you for joining us today. We are hoping, by the end of this session, you'll be a lot more familiar with the AI 2030 commitment, or at least somewhat familiar. And we have our panelists here who've been doing this for a few years now. So definitely it'll be great to hear from them, their experiences on how they went about signing up for this commitment and how they keep and on a yearly basis, how they keep their tracking on projects for this commitment. I do want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors, Legacy Lighting, Pilgrim, STG, and Rockwell. So thank you. Their support is always appreciated. And it makes us planning our events a little more easier when we have their backing. So yeah, the AI 23 Roundtable. A quick introduction to our panelists today. We have Josh Ledger from Forgecraft. He was AI co-chair last year. So yeah, past chair. Josh, you want to give a quick intro?
Yeah, I'm a project architect, project manager at Forgecraft Architecture and Design. We've been a signatory of the 2030 commitment for 3 years now. I know we turned on to the 2030 challenge before it was like a real thing. But when I started there, we actually committed to the commitment. And we do all sorts of different projects. So affordable housing, supportive housing, market rate multifamily. I help lead the single family studio where we're targeting passive house on all of our projects. And we also do some modular and finish out commercial work as well. So happy to be on the panel.
Cool. Thank you, Josh. Our next panelist is Umesh. Umesh, do you want to give a quick introduction?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. So I'm currently at Parkhill, but this is just my 4th week here, so still pretty new to the company. Parkhill has been involved in the 2030, had signed on to this 2030 commitment 4 years back. So we have been tracking our metrics for the last 4 years. Previously, I was with Studio 8 Architects here in Austin. So I was actually the one leading the sustainability efforts, and we were a signatory to the commitment back then as well. And then I've actually worked on this at 2 previous firms, so pretty familiar with the process. Things have changed over time, but overall, the goal and the information that AI is usually looking for from the signatories has stayed pretty much constant. There's a couple of new things that we can touch upon today. My background has been in green building certifications, so LEED, AEGB, I've got a bit of energy modeling background as well. So yeah, really happy to be here and share my experience with everyone.
Thank you, Umesh. Miguel, do you want to go next? Introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. Hi, yes, I'm Miguel. I work with Flato Architects. I am the design performance technologist here. I've been here for now about 2 years, but as Umesh and Josh might have mentioned, before that, I probably wasn't the same boat as everybody. I wasn't too sure what the 2030 commitment was, and didn't know where to start and how to get started and what resources are available. So when I joined Lake Flato, I found out that they had been doing this for a while. They were one of the first ones to sign up for the 2030 challenge before it became the AIA 2030 commitment. So joined a team, and I've been doing energy modeling. We've been doing a lot of sustainability goals in all the projects that we do. I also help with certification of buildings, whether it be WELL or LEED, or even yeah, and many other certifications as well. But yeah, and totally, it's been very informative and also helpful for me to learn and be a part of such a team here at Lake Flato.
Thank you, Miguel. Thank you, Josh, Umesh, and Miguel. I'll quickly introduce myself. I just realized I did not. I'm Ekta Kular. I'm with SCG Design. I'm an architect. And this year I'm the chair for Austin COTE. And my co-chair is Maria Barrios. She could not join us today, but yeah, we are looking forward to today's discussion, and we have some fun events planned in the coming months as well. So if you haven't signed up for our email, please do. I'm hoping you have since you're here. But yeah, looking forward to this year. I think let's get started. The first question, and I'll open it to, the panelists here, but I guess the first question that comes to mind is what does it mean to sign up for this commitment? I know back when STG was trying to sign up, we had a lot of questions and we just weren't sure, are we committing to, recording all our projects, or what are we signing up for? So yeah, if you guys could talk on this topic, and I'll stop sharing my screen so that we can see each other, and yeah.
Yeah, no, I can kick it off. I just believe it means just joining a larger group of peers that are looking to achieve the same goal, which is to be carbon neutral by 2030. And in return, I guess we join a community where there's more sustainable, energy efficient, and healthier buildings for our occupants and for the built environment. But honestly, it's like I mentioned earlier, when we adopted the 2030 commitment, when it first came out, the program at the time didn't require any accountability, but with now the AIA 2030 commitment, we now have guidance and support and rigor to measure our progress against the 2030 goals. So that's kind of one of the many reasons I think I believe it means to join this commitment. But at the same time, many also think that it's just meeting a standard, but it's not. I think it's an opportunity to lead and take charge. We get to share our progress and are able to make adjustments as necessary based on findings. So it's a tool at our disposal to grow in the community itself.
Umesh or Josh, do you want to add something to that? How did you guys convince your firms to join for this commitment, or?
Yeah, sure. I'll echo what Miguel already mentioned, but I know there's a few questions which will typically get asked, and there's some myths around, what exactly are we getting ourselves into? So just wanted to clear a few of those. Well, first of all, this is something that the AI has created for the building design industry. It is free, it is voluntary. It honestly, if you follow a certain process throughout the year, it shouldn't take you too long to kind of report your progress with the AI. But also, and this is something we'll talk a little bit more, but it's not just about the reporting portion, right? The DDX, or the Design Data Exchange, is one part of it. The overall commitment is basically something that was created as an ideal framework, if you will, by the AI to kind of help firms create their own sustainability path or process within their firms. So I think that is really interesting. There's this free thing which the AI has created for you, and it's like a no-brainer that architectural firms wouldn't want to sign up for it. And it's a design data exchange is what that tool is called. And that exchange portion is something that I think is really important, because it's not just you sharing data with other architecture firms. You're getting so much back in return, right? And it's like, I'll point to Miguel again, because Lake Flato has been a leader in sustainable design for a long time. And, if you can partner and hear and get feedback from someone like them, I don't know why you wouldn't want to, right? So like I said, it's a no-brainer. There's a couple of other things, is like, what exactly happens to the project data or the information that you share. All of that can be kept confidential. You don't even have to share like the names of your projects and such. But yeah, I'll just stop at that, and I'm sure there'll be questions at the end.
Yeah, and I guess so the benchmarks are kind of tied to the 2030 architecture 2030 and the 2030 challenge. But that doesn't necessarily mean like if this is your first or second year signing up that you need to just get to those kind of goalposts right away. So while like through the DDX, which is the online portal that I believe Umesh are going to show later, like yeah, there is the 2030 kind of goal set, but you can also set an internal kind of company goal. So as you're progressing to get to the 2030 challenge, like goals, there is like you can set your incremental goals like as you're going through the process. So it's not that you have to be meeting the requirements right away, that it can be something that you build up to. And there's no like penalty for not meeting the requirements either. So it's not like there's any bad that comes along with it. I can only kind of see benefits.
I agree.
Yeah, I think that was a good point because a lot of times people think there'll be a penalty, if you don't meet the goal. And meeting the goal, I mean, it's hard. I mean, I'm sure you guys have experienced it. I think for us, probably one project was close enough. That too, in one of the years we recorded, but it just gives you an idea of where overall your firm is heading or what kind of thresholds, you're looking at and how you can make them better the following year. So like as Josh mentioned, it's like an internal threshold that you can make yourself accountable for the following year. So it's the process and not per se, trying to hit the final goal for the first year that you sign up for the commitment. So I guess it's a good segue to just talk about the sustainability action plan. I think signing up, the first part is, you have that letter you commit to, but a part of that is developing a sustainability action plan. So I'll let you guys talk about it.
I can start this one. So I've helped the past two firms kind of develop the sustainability action plan. And while there's a lot of resources within the 2030 commitment and the DDX for getting that set up, it's really kind of what you want it to be. So it should reflect your firm culture and kind of your ideas of what a sustainable building is, what kind of energy efficiency is, and it should go beyond just your design. It should go like through your process and about your operations and everything. But again, like there's not any required information that's required. No required information that's required, of course. So like as long as you're setting up a framework for incrementally increasing your design process, your office kind of energy use and everything. That's what it's about, is developing a plan that you can follow. And it can either be one person who's kind of taking it and running with it and running it by firm leadership, or it's firm leadership that's doing it. Or you can kind of aggregate kind of ideas from multiple people. So it's kind of, you make it what you want it to be.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we've also integrated the design performance action plan, which is based off the AI framework for design excellence and the sustainability action plan. We just catered it to our to Lake Flato, and we created a baseline essentially from that, and we use this as a guidance for all of our projects, and it really helps us set performance goals within our projects. And at the same time, if the clients who are looking to apply some more or focus on some of these goals more, we can start to, we have a framework that we could use to guide all the designers and everybody here at the firm to use for that project. And if you guys are interested, we do have that design performance action plan on our website that you guys can go visit and look at and also build off of it. But a lot of that is built off the AIA framework for design excellence and the sustainability action plan.
Yeah, I don't know if we should share some resources, because we can maybe show a couple of examples just so that for anyone here who's new to the commitment, it might help for us to just show what these plans look like.
Do you want to share your screen, Umesh? Or
yeah, let me do that.
yeah. While Umesh pulls up his screen, I'm just curious out of the audience, do we have people that have worked on a sustainability action plan in their firms, or is this the first time? Maybe a hands up if you've worked on one, just to get an idea.
All right, we have one person.
I just shared a link to the COTE, kind of our local COTE chapters, 2030 commitment page. And it has a couple recordings. Unfortunately, they're of me, so you have to listen to me some more about the DDX as well as sustainability action plans that I gave back the past couple of years.
Yeah, one thing I'll note here is a couple of these tools or bookmarks that I would recommend you add to your browser. One is called the 2030 commitment. It's called Confluence. And this is a great resource because this kind of will give you all the information you need about the commitment, how to go about creating a sustainability action plan, but also beyond, how do you go about with sharing your firm's project data, so on and so forth. So one of the things here you'll see on the left is the sustainability action plan. And so as we talked about today, it's basically like creating your in-house approach for your firm, and every sustainability action plan is going to be different. There's examples of SAPs here. So if you click on that link, they have these broken down by small, medium, and large firms. And all these sustainability action plans that have been shared with the AIA so far are available at these links. So if you were to click on that, for example, and let's open one of the sustainability action plans here. So this is a good example because this is a one-page action plan, right? So it could be that you are a 2 to 5 person firm, and you, for this year, you decide, or for the next year, you decide that, okay, we are just going to focus on these 5 things. And then that becomes part of your action plan. So it's not necessarily, it doesn't have to be like 20 or 50 page long. It's what you want to focus on for that particular year. And what the AI recommends is that you keep on revising and updating this as you go. So like I said, there's a lot of different options on here. This one, for example, is 15 pages long. So yeah, take a look at those for sure. But the other resource I would point you to is, there is this great template that AI has created, which is called Creating Your Sustainability Action Plan. So definitely download that guide. As I mentioned earlier, it's not just about your data sharing, though that is an important part of the overall commitment. The sustainability action plan really goes into, how do you approach sustainability on your design? What kind of goals could be set? What are the lessons that you're learning from the projects that you're already working on? Could you change your goal setting for the next year? How are you training your employees on designing better, designing more efficiently? So all these kind of things, including your internal operations, these are all the things that go into the sustainability action plan. And this is a really great guide. It also gives you examples of, what are the things that some of the other firms are doing. And I just wanted to pull this quote up because this kind of says it perfectly. There's no such thing as a right or wrong or perfect sustainability action plan. The only wrong SAP is an SAP that is stagnant. So that's really important, is you don't want to create a sustainability action plan and then not take a look at it or revise it or update it for the next 5 years. So the whole thing is like making this, integrating it into part of your design process, but also revisiting it every so often. So every 6 months or the end of your reporting period, you go back and you say, oh, these things actually work for us. And the other things, maybe we didn't take a look at, or maybe we should be working on a little bit more. So those are the kind of the things that go into the sustainability action plan. Like I said, there are a lot of resources online. We are not going to dig into too many details today because we want to leave time at the end to take questions. I'm sure there's a lot of firms here who are new to this whole process, and we can talk a little bit more about this if we have time towards the end.
Thanks, Umesh. Yeah, as everyone mentioned, there are tons of resources on the AI's website and other resources that you can look at for examples of what those plans look like. And it's a wide range from a 1-page to like a 20-page plan, depending on what all information you're wanting to include. Any questions from anyone so far? No. Okay. The next topic that we want to touch upon was how does AI's design excellence common app work with the 2030 commitment? There is some overlap, and Josh, if you want to take that and give us an overview.
Yeah. Can y'all see this?
Yes.
All right, so this is the current Common App that you or your marketing people fill out for the design awards. And if you've been applying for the design awards the past couple years, you've been sort of engaged with the 2030 commitment without even knowing it. So up here in your project information, as you kind of put in your building type, that's going to link down to the energy kind of measure, as well as these questions about the 2030 commitment. So if you have your zero tool baseline, which, Umesh, are you talking about that later, or should I talk about that now?
I think let's touch upon it, Josh, just so that everyone understands what that tool is.
All right, let's see what happens when
Yeah,
I
we
click.
can take a look at that right now.
Yeah. All right. So if you click on, so there's these fancy links here on the right side, if you haven't used the Common App before, but that'll take you to the zero tool, which is similar in that I'm going to put in the least amount of information I can. Okay, it's new construction. I work on residential, so I'll be residential. We're currently at what, 90% reduction?
I think 80 or something. Yeah.
So with this, so you plug in your information, and then it gives you kind of what your target is going to be. So the zero score for this is going to have 13. Okay. That's going to be 90%. And then you get to say that you're a signatory, and then if you have reported into the 2030 DDX or not, which those two should be yeses from everyone. And then the rest is about third-party rating system, so not so much about 2030 commitment, but hopefully you're doing that as well. And then we come down to the energy portion. And for folks that are going to be doing this and have the question, why can't I select 2021 IECC? It's because it's not in here yet, so just pick the one that's closest. And then you get your benchmark EOIs, and these are tied just to what's in the 2030 commitment as well. So your benchmark is from a 2003 study, and then the UI is based on this. So your energy code, so it's saying that it's about a 40% reduction, I believe. Someone could check the math on that, but I believe that 2018 is around a 40% reduction from that study. And then down here, we can start to put in, so I just put in 15 just to see what happens. If I put in 10, this should change to a happy face. Oh wait, no, it's 5 there. So yes, because it's the 90%. So anything above or I guess below 90%, you'll get a little sad face that says nope. But this should be tied to an energy model or your actual data, and not just me typing in numbers hoping to get a yes to get that positive affirmation. But so within the Common App, there are these things that are kind of tied to the 2030 commitment as well. So depending on who you are, who's doing this, you'll either get kind of direct kind of contact with this, but this can also be used as a design tool kind of as you're going through, like if you have an energy model, kind of seeing what happens, if you're going to be hitting that threshold or not. But yeah, I think it's kind of a good tool to kind of see how you're tracking. And if you're not at that 90%, if you're like at 45% and you're just doing everything to current code, like that's okay as well. Like there's no wrong answer, but just kind of actively striving to do better on each of your projects year after year, I think is the kind of the force behind the 2030 commitment.
So Josh, I had a quick question on the benchmark for EUI. Are they referring to the Department of Energy benchmark EUIs, or do they have their own?
So this is so I know the commercial buildings are from the 2003 CBEX, which is the Commercial Building Energy CS study. And then there's a residential one. So like, because I put in single family, so if I change this to, let's say, education, then that number is going to be different. So it's 120. So it's tied to your use. So all that information is already within the Common App, and these are just kind of numbers that get automatically.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I mean, the reason why the AI is using a 2003 CBEX baseline is because the commitment, I mean, was actually established, I think, in 2005 or 2006. So that was the most current data that was available at that time. And some of the firms had already signed up for it and had started tracking their energy data based on that baseline. And the 2030 challenge, or the commitment or the goal, was based on that 2003 baseline. So it just made sense to keep it at that so that it's consistent. If new firms were to sign on at a later date, they would still be, using the same baseline. And that's actually the survey. So the EI actually does a survey, and so the numbers which the Zero tool is looking at are not modeled numbers. These are actual energy numbers. So these are real numbers coming back. It's actually out of that survey. So what you'll be looking at, so if you were to share your energy data for a project, you'll get compared not against modeled numbers, but actual energy consumption data, which I think is significant.
And that's a good point, because what we put in is the proposed energy EUIs, but and I know there's a section in the DDX where you can record what your building is actually performing at post occupancy. So, and sometimes it could be helpful. Well, sometimes your building might be performing better than what you proposed, what you thought you proposed it to be, or it could be vice versa. So, so yeah, something to keep in mind is, and we try as well to do post-occupancy surveys and try to get energy bills from our clients if they're willing to share that information with us, so that we know in real world how the building performance is. Any other insight or any questions on the Common App? I know the design award submission deadline is coming up in April, and probably if you guys are planning on submitting projects, you will be looking at this app, the Excel spreadsheet, and filling that out. So,
24 days.
okay,
24 days to the deadline.
24 days. Okay, what's the deadline then, Josh?
March 31st.
March. Oh, for the design too, for the AI Design Awards
Oh, no,
submission.
for the DDX
Oh
submission.
yeah, for DDX. Yeah, DDX
Thank
is
you.
end of this month.
Beginning of April is the
Yeah,
awards.
yeah.
But you should get it done early. Get the early bird pricing.
Oh, for the design awards. Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
no pricing.
yeah,
You don't
yeah.
have to pay for the DTX.
Don't confuse people, Josh.
Sorry.
Yeah, you don't need to pay for the AI 2030, but the Common App is a part of the design award application. That's why we brought it up. So I guess we can move on to the next topic, which is the DDX tool, which we've kind of touched upon here and there, but once you sign off the commitment and you work on a sustainability action plan, you kind of have to get familiar with the online tracking system that AI uses to track projects. So I'll let Umesh take it from here and show how the interface looks like and how to go about it. You're muted, Umesh.
Okay, sorry. I'm going to refer you back to the same website we were looking at earlier because it's got a lot of good resources and it's going to give you all the steps, once you sign up, how do you log into your account, things like that. If your company is already signed on to the commitment and you are joining a company account, then you can connect to your company account and then navigating the DDX. So that is what we are going to be looking at today. And I can actually pull up. So the way to get to the DDX is you can just search for 2030 DDX AIA. And if you have once you create an account, you can sign into that. It's going to take you to this page. And so what it's going to show you, because I'm new to Parkhill, I really haven't created any or input any project data yet on the DDX. So I just created this sample yesterday. So that's the only one that is showing up. But if you are the one who's responsible for adding projects to your company's portfolio, then those projects are going to show up here. And if you want to access a project, you click on it and it's going to take you to that project. So this is where you see your account. And the second tab is the company tab. So this is where you can link your company's website. You can upload you'll have a copy of your commitment letter, and then you'll have a copy of your sustainability action plan. So we have been doing this for 4 years here at Parkhill. The year you sign up, so let's say you sign up in 2024, your reporting will actually start in 2025. And that way you're reporting your 2024 projects for the next year. So since we signed up in 2020, we started reporting in 2021. On this page, you'll see all the projects as well. We have, I believe, some 200 plus projects that we have reported so far. If you have multiple studio locations, these are all the different locations that Parkhill has. So you can list all of them and then you can assign or attach projects based on the location that is working on that particular project. There's a number of different ways that you can kind of, organize these. On the right-hand side, you'll see all these column options. So I can say, well, I just want to look at certain metrics. So you can, make sure you can filter it any way you want. The third one here is the actual submitting your portfolio. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. Reports are where you can take a look at your past year's reports to see how your projects did, how many projects were submitted, the total gross square footage for all the projects, and how they did against the baseline or the benchmarks. And then the last tab is the research. So this is where you can actually play with your, if you want to like use one project as a spotlight, you can choose one project and then kind of compare it against not just the overall AI 2030 portfolio, but you can also be able to compare it against some of your other projects or other firms' projects as well. There's a lot of options in here. Definitely take a look at that. So for example, let's talk about how you actually create a project. So again, going back to this resource, you'll see managing projects. So there's three main ways that you can upload your project data. One is using what is called direct input. So if I'm on my portfolio and if I want to create a new project, I'll just quickly take you through that. So you can call this a test project. It's going to ask you whether the project is active, on hold, complete, or canceled. So let's say that it's an active project that we are reporting on. It's going to assign a project number to you by default. You can choose whether it's an interior or whole building project. Many firms will have whole building projects unless you provide interior design services as well. You can choose interiors. The difference between that is whole building is AI looks at it from an EUI or energy use intensity standpoint. So BTUs per square foot is the metric that is used for that. But if you have interiors only, then all you have to report really is your lighting power density. So that is the baseline which gets used for interior projects. So construction type, let's say it's new construction. I'll just say our project is in Austin. Project country is US. Let's say we are in downtown Austin. Project city, project state. And it's going to choose the climate zone depending on your location. So we are in 2A, which is hot and humid. And then let's say it's an imperial system that we want to use. Once you say save, it's going to save that project. And then you can say which year your project is expected to be completed. So let's say you choose 2026. And that brings us to one of the important inputs that is required, which is what energy code are you using? So as we talked about before, all of this is getting compared against 2003 baseline. So what happens is if you're designing to ASHRAE 90.1 2019 or IECC 2021, it is automatically going to say that your building or your project is 50 or 60% efficient compared to the 2003 baseline. But that's not going to get you to the 80 or 90% savings, unfortunately. You'll still be doing better than the baseline, but to get to that 2030 commitment target, you'll basically have to do more. So let's say we choose ICC 2021. You can choose your use type. So let's say it's an educational building, and then it's a, let's say 50,000 square foot K-12 facility. It's already going to generate a baseline EUI for you based on the national average. And once you say save and continue, this is going to be a projected target based on 80% savings. So down here is where it kind of shows you. So this is the entire sample set or the sample size that the AI currently has. And it's showing you that code equivalency is right here. 2030 target is 80%. There are some projects which are not showing, have not reported any energy savings, and then there's some which have reported 1 or 20% better than what is required to get to net zero. So this kind of gives you an idea of how projects stand. So going back to what you mentioned about the code, so let's say this was not IECC 2021. Let's say we were designing to an older code, let's say 2012, and you say save, you'll see the code equivalency change. So like I said, the more near the code, like, Austin is actually looking at adopting the next version of the energy codes as well. And Austin is always ahead of the curve. So if you're actually designing to the City of Austin energy codes, you're already a lot better than the baseline. But like I said, that doesn't mean that you have reached the target. You still have a ways to go to get to that remaining 30 or 40%. So once you save, that project is going to get saved to your portfolio. And then you can go back and change your project data if you want. So that's how you kind of create a project just using that create project tab online. The second option is bulk import. So bulk import is, let's say you have 200 projects that you want to report, and you don't want to obviously add each and every project individually. So there's a bulk import guide that AI has. If you are in a situation where you want to report multiple projects, definitely take a look at this. But in short, the way it works is, let's say I go to my company portfolio and I say export all my projects, and I say, yeah, give me all my projects. I'll download them. And then when you open the file, it's going to show you all the projects that you have reported over the last 3 to 4, or how many years you have been reporting these, right? So these are all the projects that we have reported so far. And then the next time you report, what you can do is, if a project status has changed, for example, or if you want to add a new project, you'll just have to add a row and add that project and then re-upload this file. And so the way that works is, if we go back to portfolio, this is where you say import, and you'll basically end up just importing that new file. And so you say choose file, and then you import your file, and all the projects basically will get updated online. That's a really efficient way to do it, especially if you are reporting a lot of projects. So that's the second way. The third way to do it is, if you're using any kind of energy modeling tools. So let's say you're using Sapphira, or you're using Cove tool or IES, then the DDX will allow you to kind of import information. And many of these tools will also have a way to export data directly. Like there's a direct reporting feature that most of these tools have incorporated now, where you can report directly to the DDX. So that's the third way you can do it. And that's really it. I mean, if there's any questions, we can dig deeper into these, but most of the stuff is pretty self-explanatory. You should start with reporting one project, and you'll see that they've made it real easy for you to report your data.
I agree. I think I have a couple of things to add for sure. Since we have multiple people reporting to the 2030 DDX, a lot of things that you're a project that you're uploading on your own will show up on your portfolio tab. But I think to note that is that you should always go to the company tab, because that's where all the projects are going to be at. So you might be duplicating a project by accident by creating a project in your portfolio, because and it's happened to me a couple of times where I'm looking for a project that we know we've had data for, but it was not much showing up on my portfolio, but I had to go to my company profile to see that it was already there. And you just use that search toolbar, like Umesh pointed out, and you could find the project and then update it based on the status of the project, whether it was on hold or if you're just updating the EUI for another year, right?
Right.
Another thing that Umesh mentioned was that updating the baseline EUI, when we're talking about energy models, the way we energy model here, we create our own energy models through Insight. You could use the baseline information based on the Zero tool, but when you're uploading, the way we do it is we use a custom baseline based off the ASHRAE 90.1 on that's given to us from Insight, and we link Insight to 2030 DDX and just use that code and then automatically export the project. But the caveat to that is that you may be duplicating the process as well if that project is already created. So you'll have to kind of double check to make sure that that project's not already there. If not, you'll be sending the data twice and it'll be creating a new project for you.
Yeah, that's a good point. Some of these other inputs as well, like we did not touch upon, but you can basically say what reporting phase your project is at, and then it will ask, has energy modeling been done for this design phase? If you say yes, then it's going to give you all the options for, like you mentioned, if you're using Insight or if you're using IES or whichever ones you're using. This is a slight change from the way we used to report earlier. Is it's asking you for a little bit more information because you did not really have to say what tool you're using earlier. So I think this is all part of them creating the database or making it more stronger. But yeah, I completely agree with everything you added. So yeah, thanks a lot for that. If you have renewable energy sources, feel free to add that to your project. So you're designing, let's say, to ICC 2021, that is getting you up to a certain point, but you haven't really incorporated any on-site PV generation, for example. You can add that to your energy model for whatever reason, if your energy model has not already accounted for it. Embodied carbon is something new, and I think we should probably touch upon that as well a little bit. But that's another new thing that was introduced, and not a lot of people, not a lot of firms that we have seen have been reporting on embodied carbon, but it's something that is starting to gain a lot more, I shouldn't say interest, but it's important to be doing this. And again, the same thing, if you were to choose, let's say you have done an embodied carbon analysis, then it's going to ask you which tool did you use, things like that. So it is, again, just strengthening that database for the future.
Yeah, that's a good point. Umesh, I know I was speaking to Miguel before we started, and seems like Lake Flato has delved a little bit into tracking embodied carbon. So Miguel, do you want to just share your experience of how you all have been doing the tracking on projects for this?
Yeah, we've been using softwares, testing softwares at the same time to be tracking embodied carbon. I know we've been using one-click LCA, and then we've been using Tally and other tools that are out there, just to mention. But those are the tools that I think Tally is more a brush stroke, I guess, of like overall. I think one-click LCA definitely is more robust. And it could take somebody a lot of time to actually learn about materials and their body carbon and everything. But for sure, I would say if you wanted to start looking into tools and starting to learn more about embodied carbon, I would encourage for sure to use Tally. I think now it's called TallyCat because I'm not sure. I think Autodesk ended up purchasing Tally, which is now an extension to the Autodesk platform. But that's one way. That's many of the one ways that we've been tracking for embodied carbon for sure.
And I think just to add to that, since it's a newer area on how to track embodied carbon, I would suggest just start with one project every year, maybe two the next year. You don't try to overwhelm yourself by, expecting that you track it for all the 20 projects that you've reported for the year. It's definitely, it takes time. We are doing it on one project, and it's definitely a learning process for us. Not sure if it gets easier the more you use it. I'm hoping it does. But it's definitely a new territory for a lot of us here. So yeah, it's hopefully the more we use it, we might have a better understanding of how to make it more efficient reporting wise.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that the process is any different from reporting energy models. I would say it's very similar. Once you have it's like creating an energy model, right? It could, depending on the complexity of the model itself, it could take a little bit longer to create an energy model if you're doing it in-house. Same thing for carbon. If you're creating that carbon model and embodied carbon model within your in-house, then it could take a while and be daunting. But then once you have the information, you could just it's as simple as uploading everything to the DDX for sure.
Well, we're almost out of time. Are there any questions that we can help answer? Hey. Well,
I'm sorry I was late. I didn't realize it was a virtual meeting, so I went to the AIA. But I love it if we can have real meetings sometime in the future, so we can have more open conversation. I would have loved to have contributed. Sorry I was late.
noted. Yeah,
Are we gonna have any? Do we have any live meetings coming up in the future with COTE, or are they all going to be virtual?
No, we actually had one a few weeks ago. Corey's
Right,
book
I was at
launched.
the
That
book
was, and then we have one coming up in April, the Urban Green Walk with Lauren Stanley. We don't have a date yet, but it's going to be sometime in April when the weather's still nice and we can,
Sure.
tour
But
a few projects.
having a meeting where we can discuss things is what I was talking about. The book signing was wonderful and the walk is fun, but I was talking about if we're going to have any COTE meetings where we can have discussion about these things here.
Yeah, for sure. I think we might have something scheduled towards the end of this month where we'll have just whoever's interested to bring in ideas and topics to discuss. So yeah, we will send out an invite. We definitely hear you. In-person meetings are much more interactive. This just happened that we had 3 events close to one another, so online was more practical for this one. But yeah, well,
If we
if
have
there
a future meeting, I would like to be able to share with you guys. I came back from the International Builders Show and we had a very interesting meeting with the National Association of Home Builders Sustainability Committee. I'd love to be able to share with you about their approach to things sometime when we do have an in-person meeting.
that'll be awesome, Marty. Yeah, we'll definitely take a note of that and we'll reach out to you.
Okay. All right.
Well, thank you everyone. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Josh, Umesh, and Miguel. We appreciate you all's insight. And hopefully everyone can meet the deadline. 24 days, is that what you said, Josh?
Yes, that
Yeah, we're
is.
trying.
All right, thanks everyone.
Yeah. Thanks a
Bye-bye.
lot, everyone. Feel free to
Bye.
reach out if you have any questions.
Yeah, for sure. Feel free to reach out by email. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.